John Pricci, our racing analyst, WNYT 104.5 at Team ESPN Radio. The Derby is literally right around the corner. John, I have $130, maybe $2, maybe I'll go $230. Who's winning the race? I want to know right now, where am I putting money on the winner?
You know that's not going to happen now. We've got one more major prep to go.
I know, but I'm wound up. I'm wound up today.
I could hear that. Yeah. I could hear that. How are you, Raj? And how's Chris doing, by the way?
Yeah, Johnny, I'm great, man. It's great to hear your voice.
And we're going to bring in Brian Mariano, the closer, who is a huge horse racing, not only fan, but very knowledgeable.
He is indeed.
He is indeed. So we're bringing the closer into this conversation as well. So a little three-way four, if you count yourself, John. So we're going to fire some questions at you. Let me go first, because I want to get right to the local stuff. Chad Brown will have a practical joke, most likely, in cloud computing. Give me some thoughts there on his two horses that we may see and should see at the starting gate first weekend in May.
All right, we'll start second first. Cloud computing, nice colt, 3 lifetime starts. I think it's a little bit too much to ask. There are more accomplished horses in the race. Maybe we're talking him for the Travers. I'm not talking him for the Derby. Practical joke, just talking to Brian off air, and we both bet on him to win the Bluegrass, and he had the entire stretch to catch the maiden. He did not. But it was a good race for him, okay? I mean, it was only his second start of the year, and his first start, he made the big middle move, not his game, came off the pace with a sustained run in the Bluegrass, very good race, but he was allowed to need that race as well, and he stayed fairly well. Now, I'm not sure about his 10-furlong ability, and to tell you the truth, I'm not sure that Chad is sure about that either, Raj. But I'll tell you what, he's going in the right direction. He's either at the bottom of my top 5 or the top of my second 5. He's right in that range.
John, Todd Pletcher has 5 horses already in the top 20. What do you think of his 5 horses, and who should be his top horse come the first Saturday in May?
Well, I think his top horse is the consensus top horse. The NTRA poll came out yesterday, and the number 1 3-year-old in America, according to myself and about, 40 of my colleagues, is Always Dreaming. That is his top horse. I think he is the top horse in the race. Right now, on paper, he is the one to beat. You win the Florida Derby off by yourself by 5.5 lengths. You run in 147 and change. Second fastest prep, and this is just cold numbers here. You don't have to be a fancy speed handicapper or anything. All the other preps went in 149 or 150, and here is a horse who has not only run the fastest and did so at 1 1/8, but he's got 2 victories at 1 1/8, and horses out of that have been based in South Florida are either winning or running extremely well everywhere. So he is a legitimate favorite, and I think we're talking about the Derby favorite here.
John, I'm not a complete idiot most of the time. I'm looking at some of these crib notes the closer has given us on horses with points based on our prep races. Do you know what trainer I'm not seeing on this list, and a guy that I think most of us amateurs would love to bet the first Saturday in May, and that is Bob Baffert?
Well, that is correct. That was a very tough photo for third that he lost in the Santa Anita Derby. Had he won that photo, it would have put him on the bottom line at about 40 points or so. But here's the thing about the points: this point system is working because it's eliminating all those kind of speedy types that developed very quickly when they were 2-year-olds. And then as the distances marched on, they didn't march on with it, but they got in by basis of graded earnings when they went to the point system. And the point system is now rewarding the preps as we get closer to Derby. You got the 10-point things in January and February, and then in March and April, you get the 50-point things, and now that we're into mid-April, you got the 100-point preps. You know what? The bottom of the top 20, to get into the Derby now is about 40 points. That's higher than it's ever been. I think The former high number to just get in as a qualifier prior to this year, I think was like 32 points. Well, we're going to shatter that record because, you know, we've got all of those horses in there now, and you've got another 100-pointer coming up on Saturday. But no, they're going to have to do this one without Bob Baffert. So some horse that he's got back there that you never heard of is going to come in and he's going to win the Travers Place.
No doubt.
Here comes Arrogate.
That's it.
So, John, what do you put towards now, as you mentioned the points now being more important later in the 3-year-old year? What do you put towards, a lot of people have noticed the West Coast bias that has been in the Kentucky Derby and a lot of the Triple Crown races the last few years. Not seeing that as much this year. How much do you put that in this year's field?
Well, I think, you know, it's not an area bias. All of these things are cyclical. And that's what really, sickens maybe a little bit of a strong word. But that's what really bothered me and has bothered a lot of, you know, old school traditionalists such as myself. And that includes, I want to say, 9 out of 10 horsemen. The fact that the Bluegrass and the Wood Memorial were downgraded this year by the Graded Stakes Committee from Grade 1 to Grade 2 because those races have not produced Kentucky Derby winners in recent years. And as you noted, most of the winners came out of California. Well, those were the years that the best horses came out of California, or they were paced in California. It would appear, I mean, by all measure, if you want to look at the results of the press that we've had so far, that the best horses are based in the East this year, or in the Northeast, the South, and a little bit in the Midwest. So these things are cyclical in nature. So I think the fact that we've got no Baffert, there are a couple of horses coming into the Derby from the Santa Anita Derby. It was by far the weakest of the major preps that we saw. It was the slowest. The last eighth of a mile was like in 13-3. The last 3/8 of a mile was almost in 40 seconds. That's not going to win you any Derby.
John, what can I bet this weekend? I'm going away for a week. I need a quick hit. What can I do?
Oh man, they're going to draw the races tomorrow. I mean, you're merciless. It's unbelievable. But I'll tell you. All right.
Can you text me later?
I'll tell you one horse that. All right. Number one, I'll text it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, you big baby. and number two, the horse I'm keeping an eye on. The one I hope comes up good after I might do my work. I like this colt of Steve Asmussen's by the name of Untrapped. So we'll see how he's going to make out. And now, with the defection of One Liner, you know, One Liner was one of those 5 horses that Todd had in the race. Well, he had a very substandard workout 2 days ago. Todd said, there's something going on here. I can't put my finger on it. And the owners, Windstar Farm, said, well, you know what? Ship him here to the farm, and we'll go over him with a fine-tooth comb. So he's off the Derby trail. He could be back on, you know, he could be back for the Preakness or the Belmont or something like that if it turns out to be nothing. But, where there's smoke, oftentimes, sadly, there's a little bit of fire. So he's out of it. And, poor Todd, he might only have 4 of the 20 Derby horses.
Preach, it's always good hearing your voice, my man. That means we are entering a time period that I certainly enjoy, and that is the Derby that leads to the Preakness, that leads to the Belmont, that leads to Saratoga. There you go.
I mean, that's it, man. That's 8 letters of heaven right there, starting with S-A-R-A.
Preach, always a pleasure, man. I'll be in touch. You just text me a couple, you give me an exacta, triple, superfecta. I'll bet anything.
Yeah, listen, you're my man. 30 years. It's a lot of history we got.
Oh, there's no doubt. I look forward to making it 31 this summer. We'll be back in touch, Preach. Thanks for a few minutes.
Be well, John. Thanks,
Very
man.
good. Thank you, Raj. Take care, guys.